What's up, y'all? I'm KC-Michele, and for today's spoiler alert, I'm going to do a review of What's Wrong with Secretary Kim, a 2018 romantic comedy series starring Park Seo Joon as Young-Joon, the vice chairman of Young-Joon Group, and Park Min-young as Kim Mi-seo, the vice chairman's personal assistant. You'll recognize Park Seo Joon from Itaewon Class and Fight for My Way. He also had a cameo in the MCU as Prince Yan in The Marvels. He was so adorable for the 2 minutes and 38 seconds that he was in there. You'll recognize Park Min-young from her leading roles in Forecasting Love and Weather and Her Private Life. This K-drama was well received with an 8.1 out of 10 rating on IMDb. Now let's get into it. The premise behind the show is that Vice Chairman Lee Young-joon, the younger of the two sons of Chairman Lee, heavily relies on his secretary Kim Mi-seo to run his corporation. So when she abruptly declares that she's dipping as his secretary, he kind of loses his mind a bit and starts scheming to keep her from quitting. He hits up his friend and president of Young-Joon, Park Seo, who gives quirky but pretty good advice that Young-Joon never hesitates to remind him either didn't work or he didn't use, and that's why he's divorced. He ramps up his antics throughout the show, hoping to keep Mi-seo by his side, and as the show progresses, we learn there's more to their relationship than just the boss assistant. Not only that, there's a major conflict between Young-joon and his brother Sung-yeon, who is the elder brother, but chose to go ripping and running around Europe as a successful author rather than working to take over the family business. It doesn't help that Sung-yeon is smitten by Mi-seo as well, and even tries to get under Young-joon's skin by saying he's going to win Mi-seo's heart. Young-joon cannot accept the loss of Kim Mi-seo. He's relied on her so much that he never realized just how much she sacrificed to be on call for him 24/7. Since he knows the connection between the two of them from their younger days, he feels like he's got to convince her to keep working for him in order to continue to ensure she's safe because of a traumatic childhood experience that she can't fully remember. He starts by offering her financial stability, saying he'll buy her a house, he'll make sure she has the best medical care and benefits package, he's going to pay off all of her debts that she may have and offer her the title of director. She declined, so he made her say her real reason for quitting, which was basically she wanted a life and she wanted to date. So he thinks if he gives her those experiences, she'll change her mind. So he goes all in. Let's get married. Let's go on this extravagant date that no other man can possibly top, disguised as a going away present. Let's start actually dating because the coffee house dude you tried to get with, he ain't it. The whole time, his feelings for her are actually starting to grow, and he finds himself really wanting more from her than just to stay as his secretary. So much so that at some point he realizes how self-centered he's been by trying to convince her to stay. So he genuinely tells her it's okay for her to leave and to properly train the new secretary to take her place. But once the secret of them dating is out and rumors start to fly, Kim Mi-seo starts to second guess her decision to leave. An emergency with the UK group springs the executive team into action, and with her leadership, they devise a plan that keeps them on top, which makes her realize she doesn't really want to quit, even though they are planning to get married. But planning their wedding caused a little friction that Young-joon wasn't accustomed to, Kim Mi-seo prioritizing the company over their relationship. But when she saw how her actions was making him feel, she fixed the problem expeditiously. And the ending with their wedding was simply beautiful for anyone who fantasizes about a money is no object style wedding. Now, there are 3 other couples at play here. We've got the president who wants to get back with his ex-wife, and the secretary who inadvertently helps him through her daily screw-ups that he's come to expect, and even has a little secret stash of clothes just in case. Then there's the cheat dude who puts on this mask of being this workaholic as a cover for wanting to save his coins, and the new secretary who figures out his secret and is constantly threatened in order to keep his secret. And finally, the driver who falls for the over-the-top section chief who wouldn't like him until he saved her from embarrassment during a company retreat with a wardrobe malfunction. So there are a couple of conflicts going on here, but the big conflict is the one within the Lee family. Why didn't the eldest son take over the family business? Why does he hate his younger brother so much? And why is the feeling mutual? What really happened, and who really saved Kim Mi-seo from the kidnapping that her family never knew about? Which I still think is kind of crazy. Like, how was she gone an entire night, got kidnapped, was kind of a witness to a suicide, and then Opa took her back home and nobody knew? That's crazy. Then there's the conflict of the workaholic cheapskate who was bullied so much as a child for being poor that he's making some good and then some ridiculous sacrifices to save money so that when he finally does become married, they'll have everything they need so his kids won't have to suffer like he did. Now that's like a side quest conflict, but a good one, and one that many people can really relate to. The third conflict is when it is revealed that Sung-yeon felt guilty about what happened to Young-Joon, that he flipped his lid and started saying that he was the one who was kidnapped. Because of something Young-Joon overheard his mother saying about everything, he decided to play along, faking amnesia and allowing his brother to become the kidnapping victim. But because Kim Mi-seo's memories were triggered after watching a magic show, he had to come clean and own up that he was the Opa that saved her. Young-Joon proposes to her in the most romantic way possible, basically using all the latest social media stunts, but settling on singing to her his desire to become her husband. So adorable. But he had to, under threat of Mi-seo's dad, who got him drunk in such a cute way. And then Stingy Man, he tried to stay away from the new secretary once it was revealed that she liked him. But she broke him down and said she would rather be broke with him and work together to have a good life than to continue to live separately and watching him scrimp and save. For what? And Section Chief and the driver bodyguard finally admit they're in a relationship, even though everyone already knew and started messing with them as she tried to keep it a secret from her coworkers. I only give it an 8 out of 10. I gave it an 8 out of 10, but only because of the graphics. I like the little lust demon, it's cute, but all the rest was a little too much for me. And yes, they lose 2 points for that because I really felt those things detracted from an otherwise flawlessly directed show. I love the pacing. There weren't as many slow moments in the show with people taking a little old time talking with 30-second slow-mo eye gaze shots. The music selection was diverse enough to fit the moods of the different scenes. And though I didn't choose any of the songs for my playlist, it doesn't mean I didn't like any of the songs. It's just I'm not as into love ballads like that to put it on my playlist. And I love the scenes where he stepped out of his Maserati and there's a line of people on either side like he's royalty and everybody else is little peasants. But I mean, everybody does it on their K-dramas whenever they royalties or whenever they're chaebols. It's kind of crazy. And yes, even the overtop section chief played her role well. Y'all can't tell me y'all don't know some overdramatic person. And if you don't, you missing out. As far as Park Seo Joon is concerned, I believe he's narcissistic and he will pass some beautiful women staring at him just to check out the reflection in his mirror. My son said they saw nothing wrong with that. Really? And can we give it up for Lee Min-ki and Jung So-min for their cameos as Kim Mi-seo's parents when Mi-seo was a child? I honestly wanted to watch this show because I had just finished watching Because This Is My First Life and Beauty Inside and was looking for more content with Lee Min-ki in it. And I was duped, but I ain't mad at it. Well, they agreed to do it because the director of this was also the director of Because This Is My First Life. So there's a little bit of trivia for you. And I really like Park Min-young in this as well. I love her acting. She's amazing. And this is because I wasn't keen on his parents. They didn't really impress me as the types to be the chairman of a multi-billion-dollar corporation and a materialistic matriarch. Their characters didn't seem to fit. And maybe that can be because of the choice of actors for the roles. But for me, they just didn't fit as Young-Joon and Sung-joon's parents. and especially how their younger versions handled the kidnapping. Maybe it's because I'm not a chaebol and I don't understand chaebols' mindsets to keep things quiet and make sure the public persona is protected at all costs, but they still seem like loving and caring parents who tried to balance the two. And I didn't understand their choice to let Sung Yun play the victim. And I felt they really went to the extreme with that frugal dude. His behavior reminded me of the Learning Channel show Extreme Cheapskates. I can't believe this behavior is real. And this is coming from someone who buys big ticket items off of bidding websites, Craigslist, and Facebook Marketplace. So let me give you a little side note here. I bought a washing machine for $25 and it lasted me over 2 years, so I got my money's worth. But what I'm not going to do is wear the same outfit every day claiming I purchased several of the same so I don't have to think about what to wear. I ain't Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg. I like to change things up, and you would think it would be more expensive to keep one suit clean than to buy a proper wardrobe. But that's just me. I think the writers did a pretty good job of progressing the storyline at a pretty good pace. There were great smaller conflicts to keep the audience engaged while pushing our way to the climax of the overarching conflict, and the resolution was beautiful. It made me actually do research on Korean weddings, and honestly, I like how their culture approaches weddings. They have wedding halls with multiple weddings happening at the same time and on the same day. All you have to do is have the ceremony there, everyone eats, they give cash to the couples, and then they dip. Brides can rent their dress, and they can even rent different dresses for the photos versus the wedding day. But I still like our concept of the reception. Nothing like getting lit and doing line dances and taking selfies for the gram. They only lose a point because I really wanted to know more about the kidnapper. I really wanted to know more about her backstory and what drove her to do what she did. I mean, without her kidnapping them, there was no trauma, and there would be no need to hire her as a secretary, and her part in the progression of the story just left me wanting. For the same reason, I needed more kidnapper. And I didn't like how the parents let Sung Yun walk around all those years playing like he was the victim, knowing he was the reason Young-Joon had to change his name and everything. Everything else was fictionally plausible to me, as far as the storyline was concerned for the worlds of K-dramas. If Jeff Bezos can try to convince a country to dismantle a bridge to let his yacht through, I'm sure a chaebol vice chairman can shut down his own amusement park, rent out a boat, have huge fireworks display without anyone batting an eye. I mean, the writers really did try to give us everything in the show, with the amazing date, the jaw-dropping proposal, and the extravagant wedding. And I could see Kim Mi-so not allowing his or his family's wealth to change the core of her being by stopping them from buying her a car and a house for her father and her sisters. There was this scene that was like a masterclass in seduction, and I could not let this review pass without mentioning it. That scene takes my breath away, and it sealed the deal for me that this was a solid K-drama that I could watch over and over and over again and still feel the emotional roller coaster that they took us on as if I was watching it for the first time. I also want to bring up that I love that the shows are bringing light to PTSD that can wreak havoc over your life if you don't get help for it. Young-Joon went through a lot as a 4th grade prodigy in those few days. He was tied up with zip ties, it ripped his skin and his lower legs, and he had to appease this crazy chick who was all of a sudden bringing this younger girl into the space. So now he's got to figure out how to keep her safe, especially towards the end, just before she dies by suicide. Then he's got to figure out how to get them both out of that apartment without over-traumatizing Mi-so. So now, as adults, he loses his mind when he sees cable ties, and she blows a fuse when she sees spiders. And because of those experiences, he couldn't consider women as a love interest, and he didn't even want them touching him. He only kept them around for public appearances. He had to heal from that trauma before he could fully love her. And I also wanted to talk about how the things that were said to Go Gui Nam as he was growing up almost cost him a relationship. He was so fixated on not being poor by being frugal that he almost missed his chance with Kim Ji-ah. And she was a good one to push him to get over what was said in his past to allow him to move forward. There's a lesson in all that, y'all. So overall, if you haven't watched it and you were looking for a review to help you decide if you want to take the 16 episode journey, I say go for it. I've already watched it 3 times and I wouldn't have any problems watching it again. And that's saying something because there's only about 3 or 4 K-dramas out there that I would willingly watch that many times. So after I watch a K-drama, I like to go through the 1-star reviews and see if I agree with them or if any of them that leave more than "it was terrible" or "boring" reviews have any valid points. Of the ones who left reasons for why they gave it 1 star, they say it's primarily because the plot was too simplistic, the storyline was ridiculous, the main leads were boring compared to the rest of the cast. In fact, several 1 stars said they preferred the side characters to the main leads. A couple felt the main leads didn't have any chemistry or they didn't like Park Min-young's acting. One even tickled me because she said as an executive secretary, she cringed at the things that Kim Mi-seo was doing that was outside of an executive secretary's job description. And you know what? I can't be mad at that. If you're an executive secretary who's out here doing this hard work, the last thing you want is people thinking what you're doing is serving snacks and fixing ties. But if that person thinks back to Mi-seo's why, then she would understand that she knew she was woefully underqualified to fill the position. So she chose to do those other things to make herself indispensable. And if you're Young-Joon, are you going to stop her? And why did she want to be indispensable? Because she put her sisters through school and paid her father's debts off from when he got scammed. So if she's got to fix a tie or brew some tea, then guess what? She gonna do what she got to do. But notice that once she made that last loan payment, she chucked them deuces. Then the others were complaining that the vice chairman was too narcissistic. Well, he is a vice chairman of Samsung, Young-Joon Group. There's got to be a degree of narcissism to hold that type of position. In fact, studies show narcissists gain leadership positions at faster rates, and upwards of 18% of CEOs are considered narcissists. So I can understand all of these critiques, but none of them stop me from enjoying the show. Now, disclaimer time. Everyone is entitled to their opinions and everyone doesn't have to share the same taste, and that's okay. There's this saying that I love to quote from my favorite content creator, Kev on Stage. It's for who it's for. And the progression of Young-Joon and Mi-seo's relationship and watching him become more vulnerable as he accepted his feelings for her was definitely for me. So what did you think of What's Wrong with Secretary Kim? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you enjoy the OSTs? Did you find this K-drama rewatchable? Who was your favorite character? Let's talk about it below in the comments. And as always, if you like this content and want to see more of it, you know what you got to do if you haven't already done so.